कृष्ण चैतन्य देवम श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च नमा ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगतपति गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। श्री श्रीनिताय सच्चिदानंद भगवान की जय। जगतगुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। Okay, so welcome to the ISKCON Portland Sunday Feast program. Today is August 27th and it's celebration time approaching with the appearance of Lord Balaram Purnima this coming Wednesday, and then exactly 1 week later is Sri Krishna Janmashtami. So I was till the last minute kind of considering between topics what to talk about, and the topic I have selected to talk about today is not about those, because there will be other devotees talking about it. We have a very nice presentation coming up on Balaram Purnima by a very favorite scholar of mine, scholar as in like whom I look up to. I don't know if I'm allowed to reveal his name because it was told to me in confidence by our temple president. And lot of discussions on the, there's a nice drama being prepared for the appearance of Lord Krishna based on the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam and so on. There's another event that recently happened, mainly of sort of interest to devotees of or people of Indian origin. And that was this there was big hype and news, at least, of this lunar lander called Chandrayaan. So, and it was sort of more hyped because the last time the equivalent of NASA in India, that's called ISRO, ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization. They tried to land a lander on the moon. It unfortunately crashed. So that made big news as well. So this one, everybody's eyes were fixed on it this time, and this time it landed successfully. So there was a lot of news and media hype and everything about it, including in the devotee community. So I wanted to touch upon sort of that topic on, if we were to give a title, I don't have any slides for today, but if we were to give a title to today's discussion, it would be how to properly understand the Shastras or the Puranas in the context of modern science, or vice versa, how to understand modern science in the context of the Puranas, with this exclusive focus. Now, this is a huge topic, and many devotees have talked about this topic at length. Some devotees have spent their entire devotional life and are still doing so, many of them, within ISKCON and even outside of ISKCON. Within ISKCON, the entire arm that Srila Prabhupada very much, very dearly wanted to discuss and work on this area of synthesis, and I have very carefully tried to choose that word synthesis of, another word that can be sort of used is harmonizing or synthesizing the understanding in the Puranas and modern science. And that arm within ISKCON that Srila Prabhupada himself established was known as the Bhaktivedanta Institute. And today in the world there are many, many sort of groups of devotees under this umbrella of Bhaktivedanta Institute that are trying to do various things in their own attempts or in their own, using their own expertise and their skills to advance this synthesis or harmonizing of the Puranas and modern science. Why this is very important is because on sometimes mistakenly, according to me, or according to Srila Prabhupada as well, and according to those, and I will come to that topic in just a second, for any serious thinker, now I don't mean thinker as in like a philosopher, but anybody who seriously cares about it and cares to think about it. So even a mother who may not be, a PhD, seriously thinks about the welfare of their child, isn't it? So that's what I mean by a serious thinker, or a person who seriously cares about it will go a little deeper, will want to go a little deeper and try to understand what is the synthesis, what is the harmony around this entire topic. And those who do not care to think deeply about it often get trapped in a binary dichotomy. Dichotomy means white or black, mutual exclusivity. If it's this, it cannot be that. If it is that, it cannot be this. Okay? Which means that complete polarization. That word polarization is more familiar to today's people, given all sorts of polarizations in the world based on religion, based on political parties, based on so many issues that are present in terms of today's way of living in any country. There is so much polarization. And that is, so this brings me to the sort of this topic of controversy. So we say controversy, and especially this sort of aspects of science, modern science, and Puranas or our Vedic texts. Many of the things are so fantastic, so far out. When I say fantastic, I mean far out, or so to say weird looking, or weird, appearing weird, that one thinks that, oh, this is all mythology, it's a myth, or it's all just in the books. You can imagine anything you want. Even, who's the author of Harry Potter? Huh? Rowling, yeah. Even she could imagine, a person sitting on a broomstick and flying around. So I can imagine anything I want. I can imagine this harmonium or microphone suddenly growing wings and it flies around, and there is no limit to one's imagination. And these ancient books are just a figment of somebody's imagination. That can be the position that one can say, okay, I reject all of it. And once you begin the process of rejection, where do you draw the line? Do you just say, oh, if this microphone had wings and it flies, I reject that, but whatever else is said in those books, like surrender to Bhagavan, that I accept, but this I reject. Where do you draw the line? And very soon one finds themselves in a position that they reject the whole thing, because there is no clear way to draw the line. Okay? So this is the problem. Or one who accepts the entire thing, who accepts that everything, because then you are presented with only those two possibilities, either accept the whole thing or reject the whole thing. If you accept this, then it presents, now I'll just take a simple example of Lord Krishna lifting the Govardhan hill. A small boy as big as this boy sitting here lifting a hill. Is that possible? Sounds like a fairy tale. But Lord Krishna did lift the Govardhan hill as per the Srimad Bhagavatam. So how do we understand that? So either we reject, there are two choices, unless one can have a criteria to say this is how much I reject and this is how much I accept. One has a choice. Oh, science cannot tell us how a small boy can lift a hill. So either I reject science and accept the Shastra fully, or I reject the Shastra fully and accept science. And many people who are educated, even to a high school level, I'm not talking about scientists who are PhDs and are doing research in the various research universities. I'm just talking about a simple high school student who has done his high school level science. Even to that person, it presents a very big choice if he cannot draw the line as to which one to accept. And then people come up with all sorts of weird, confused mindset. Or they just reject some parts of it based on some weird criteria, and just some people say, oh, just the moral principles are good. So you have your own framework of morality, and then you say, oh, the Vedic books support morality. That's to the extent I will believe them. So the Vedas or the Puranas then at that point are not teaching you anything new. You already have a frame of mind which you have made up, and because you get to come to the temple, associate with, friends, have nice kirtan, prasadam, which everybody likes, nice music, nice food. And yes, you cannot just say that this is all wrong. It would be kind of, socially awkward to say that, hey, you won't go to a friend's dinner party and say, I don't like you, I like your food. So you say, I accept this much. But the overriding principle is the framework that you have already established in your mind, whatever that may be, of morality. For example, don't do things to your neighbor that you wouldn't want him to do to you. That's a very, very basic, fundamental, one-line principle of morality. Or we can say law of karma. Then it goes a little bit beyond and deeper, which is to meditate on Bhagavan, on the name of Bhagavan. Okay, even I can do that. Even meditation, focusing the mind, yes, it improves productivity. If I can focus on the name of Bhagavan, I can also focus on my work. People draw all kinds of correlations and say, this is useful. If I can do that, I can do this. This is my benefit from doing this. Or it's okay, I'm just taking the name of Bhagavan. That's okay, it gives me peace. There are scientific studies which have been done which show the mind becomes calm. And when I say scientific study, the science in the area of physiology is a little different, because it's very hard to prove scientifically by measuring instruments than you do statistical studies. So science in the physiological area primarily, now of course there are microscopes to see bacteria and germs, and even to the level of cells, and within the cells you can see even the protein molecules and all that stuff. But largely the domain of science within physiology, when I say physiology, I mean medicine and all that stuff that keeps you all well and keeps you out of the hospital. That kind of science is largely based on statistical analysis, like the COVID vaccine and all those things. Okay, we have done the, what do you call that? The tests, huh? Trials, yes. And then, all that, everything, nobody, dropped dead. So we should, I'm not against COVID vaccine or anything. I took it myself. So this is not a COVID vaccine as discussion. So the point being that then people come up with these weird boundaries in their own mind and somehow try to make spiritual progress. But in the mind, if you ask them what is on this side or that side, it's a very confused boundary, and if you ask many people, you'll get as many answers. So talking about it very objectively and logically, either you need a very clear criteria. There are three options. Please remember, there are three options. Either you have a very clear criteria of differentiating the two, that this much I accept and this much I reject. Or you completely reject one and accept the other. That's the second option. Or the third option is to harmonize and synthesize and make sense out of it for the whole thing, that both these are correct and here's a way to harmonize them. They are both trying to say the same thing. Like there is absolutely no difference, for example, in physics and chemistry. The physics book is very different from the chemistry book, isn't it? All the chapters are different. Exam is different. You can get 100% in a chemistry exam and completely fail the physics exam. Possible? So it's different knowledge, but they don't contradict each other. They are synthesized with each other. Have you ever seen a physicist fighting with a chemist over things? No. It is synthesized and harmonized, though both are talking about essentially very similar things about how nature works. So that is the topic I wanted to scratch the surface of in the next 20-30 minutes, as much as I can do. In the view of this thing, keeping this sort of recent development of this great accomplishment of the Indian Space Research Organization, the NASA equivalent of India, of landing the moon lander successfully on the surface of the moon. So, why there is, I have personally observed a lot of these discussions within devotee groups of this sort of apparent controversy. So what is this apparent controversy? So I want to go into that. Before that, let us try to understand. Now there are some real controversies, okay? I'm not denying that. There could be a controversy which is real, but in this particular case and in many similar cases, the controversy means what is the nature of a controversy? What's the real meaning of a controversy? The real meaning of controversy is the following: that there is a fixed belief in first of all, there are two camps, two beliefs. And the controversy arises when there are enough people or some people in both camps. And both those camps have a preconceived, a pre-decided understanding of that their understanding is the right one. And of course, the two camps have an understanding which does not match each other. It is opposite. It is mutually exclusive. Okay? For example, in this case, did the lander land on the moon or it was fake? It never landed. It was just a media propaganda. So either it is a media propaganda or it is real. It cannot be both. So it is mutually exclusive. It cannot be both. The root cause of a controversy is our thirst and our deep hankering, our hunger for our ahankar, for our ego. Ego for what? Ego for winning. Just winning. So you give somebody a topic in which there are enough people on the other side to beat up or to win against. That is a controversy. Which then leads to the fact, so this is like, like I win, you lose. That is the fundamental outcome. It does not change positively the lives, the meaningful lives of either side of people. It's just that I win, see, I win. That momentarily, and even if it is not I win, an even lower level is there. I win, you lose is called jalpa. I won't go into those details. The next lower level is you lose. I win or not doesn't matter. You lose. There is this deep desire to defeat. Shri Shri Nitai Satchidanand Dev Bhagwan ki jai. Okay. So that leads to, so these controversial topics are very interesting to people because it gives ripe grounds, a ripe environment or a situation to take a side and then to try to win. That is a controversy. What does it mean really? What not mean, but what does it show? It shows a lack of desire, interest, and capacity. Three things. First of all, there is no even desire. There is a difference between desire and interest. There is no even desire to step back and think, is there a way to synthesize? Maybe both are right. Or maybe one is like, maybe the other guy is right, I am wrong. If there is no way to synthesize, maybe I am the one who is wrong, he is right. And then to accept it. Accept the other person's position. There is no desire. Secondly, there is no interest. What it means is that you actively are interested in defeating. New topic to defeat somebody. Good job. Thanks for bringing it up. Now I got something to defeat someone on. That's the interest. There is interest to indulge the mind. And finally, there is no capacity for some people to even go deeper and try to analyze what is going on. And people with no qualifications speak as if they are extremely qualified to talk about it. And to the extent they will acts and say things. So there is no capacity to. In particular context, for example, there was a case in Russia recently, last 5 or 10 years ago, where there was some group was trying to ban the Bhagavad Gita from being distributed in Russia, based on few verses that you must fight and kill the enemy. So the whole point was to fight and to defeat the other party. And this group went all the way, I think, up to the Russian Supreme Court to say that you must ban this book. It is a fanatical book which promotes violence, even though in the beginning the main person was trying to be compassionate and kind. But God, the so-called God of these guys, forced him to fight and kill. So it's a fanatical God, it's a fanatical religion. Man is trying to be compassionate and kind, and God is inciting or enticing or provoking him to be violent. Therefore, ban this book. Now, all of you have read Bhagavad Gita. Is that the message of the Bhagavad Gita? How many times in Bhagavad Gita has the term ahimsa been used? At least 5 times. Okay? The same Russian government, when there is a uprising or whatever, a revolt or bad guys, they kill the bad guy, isn't it? Every government does that. Now, I'm not talking about Putin killing Prigozhin or whatever else by whatever, maybe that's not the discussion. But legal means, let's say it's all legal, it's all through justice. There is killing happening in the court. The court says, go kill whatever, this person receives death penalty. So one who cares to read the Bhagavad Gita, now, moment you see this controversy, you can take a side. Yes, let's ban. Put a banner, ban. And the other side will say, no, whatever. Neither side has full understanding. But it takes a desire, an interest, and a capacity. Capacity, now, Bhagavad Gita doesn't require a PhD. But what kind of capacity it requires? An open mind, patience, and time. And people don't have those capacities in many cases. So once who has those capacities to invest and to little bit, some understanding is needed of what is being taught, and to connect what was talked in the second chapter versus the fourth chapter. If I say, see, in second chapter I said that, and therefore what is said in fourth chapter connects with that, that basic capability needs to be there, then you can easily understand Bhagavad Gita, and you will have no misconception whether Bhagavad Gita is promoting ahimsa or himsa. Correct? But it requires desire, interest, and capacity. Without that, you will be permanently in one of the two camps, and the controversy will rage in full swing. So, regarding the moon landing, that is the topic for those who arrived, and I wanted to just touch upon this aspect of, there is so much discussion going on, did man land on the moon or not, and so on and so forth. So let us see what the Shastras say, and more specifically, now the Shastras do say, for example, that, advanced yogis in the, we were just reading from the first canto, third chapter, fourth verse. It says there, and then in the second canto also, the description of the Virat Rupa is given, and it is written directly in the Srimad Bhagavatam that one can enter, and in the Bhagavad Gita also says in 9.25 that various types of people with various qualifications can go to these planets, to Chandraloka, Pitralokas, and so many other lokas, Svargaloka, in this material world, let alone the spiritual world. Today's talk is not about spiritual world at all. It's about highly material aspect. So, yes, Shastras say that. Let's see what Srila Prabhupada has said. Now, much of the controversy is around what Srila Prabhupada has said. So, I'm just taking a snippet, otherwise I'll take the whole, 3 hours will not be enough. So, in a class by Srila Prabhupada on, I'm giving the dates and all because I didn't make slides and all, 26th December 1973 in Los Angeles, in a class on Srimad Bhagavatam 1.15.49. You can look it up. Srila Prabhupada says this. I'll just read it out. So, there is Pitraloka, Yamaloka, etc. Just like the moon planet, we are trying to go there, but there are different lokas, planets, and you can go. But not by the Sputnik, not by force. No, you will have to qualify yourself. See, this is the most important sentence. You will have to qualify yourself. Now, when I'm part of some of these devotee WhatsApp chat groups, they ignore this sentence, you will qualify yourself. Oh, Prabhupada said you cannot go. See, he said you cannot go. So how are they going? It's fake. It's you take part of it, that becomes your whole understanding. There is no interest to even open the quote and read it fully. How much time does it take to open and read it? So I'm reading it for you. He says you will have to qualify yourself. Then he goes on to say, just like to come to your country to take the permanent visa, I had to qualify in so many ways the immigration department, not by force. Even in this planet, you cannot enter any country without being permitted. How can you enter other planets? Simply by force? No, that is not possible. Again, he says, you have to qualify yourself. Directly Srila Prabhupada is saying. So this kind of suggests, and he does say this, no, not by Sputnik. At that time in the 70s, there was the space race. Sputnik versus Apollo versus so many other, there's this big space race and nuclear race and so many races in the Cold War. So there he says we cannot go, and one can take that out of context, first of all. Then you can directly look up in the Sri Ishopanishad purport of Ishopanishad, number 12. He says the following. With their advanced consciousness, human beings are naturally inclined to travel in outer space and to reach the other planets either by spaceships, mystic powers, or demigod worship. So what are the three possibilities given here? Spaceships, mystic powers, or demigod worship. So he's giving three possible ways. Like to reach any place, you can go by car, by train, or by aeroplane, or by ship or whatever, so many other ways. So there are multiple means he is sharing. In the Vedic scriptures, he continues, in the purport of Sri Ishopanishad, number 12. In the Vedic scriptures, it is said that one can reach other planets by any of these three ways. He's giving the number 3. What are the 3 ways? By spaceships, by mystic powers, and by worshipping the devatas. But the most common way is by worshipping the demigod presiding over the particular planet. In this way, one can reach the moon planet, the sun planet, and even Brahmaloka, the topmost planet in this universe. Oh my God, sun planet? The external surface temperature itself is 5,000 degrees Celsius. Internal temperature of the sun, if you were to go a little bit below the surface, is millions of degrees with a thermonuclear reaction going on. It's like the universe's, not the universe's, maybe the solar system's biggest hydrogen bomb out there. How can you enter into it? Oh my God, there is a devata inside the sun. Oh, this is all baloney. Reject the Shastra. I'm happy in my own little life of eat, drink, and be merry. So you can take one of those 2 options, or for the desirous, the interested, and one who has the capacity, desire, interest, and capacity to try to harmonize. So let us see how we can harmonize. And it needs qualification. So one qualification could be, if you can choose a side. It's a good qualification to have is humility. I do not have the capacity. For humility, you do not have the capacity. You don't even need the interest. I'm not interested in this controversy. I don't have the capacity. But I don't desire to beat up the other guy. I'm happy in my scientific world. I'm a nice moral guy. I don't mistreat my neighbor in the hope that he won't mistreat me. And I am living a happy moral life, fine. Or on the other side, the devotee may think, I'm happy chanting my Hare Krishna Mahamantra. I'm not. So that can be a reasonable way, and I don't badmouth the other side either. So that can be one. That's also a qualification. Would you agree? Humility is a big qualification. Huh? Many people, including myself, don't have it. Then if one wants to go a little deeper into this aspect, is not okay with taking a side and being okay with it without bashing the other side, having respect for them, for each other. If that is not the desire, there is interest, and one has the capacity to go deeper, then what to do? So then you must have the qualification. So one of the qualification can be to be given the qualification. Simply you are given the qualification. Here, take the qualification. Give it. Take it, my child. Who was given such qualification? Any examples? To see aspects of the, deep aspects of the material world. Who was given such qualification? Arjuna. Yes, in Bhagavad Gita, 11th chapter. In the 4th verse, he says, I want to see, my dear Krishna, I want to see your presence in the material world. What does Krishna say? You cannot see it with your present eyes. You will need what? Divya Chakshu. The exact same word is used in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.3.4. So with Divya Chakshus, you are given. Another example, by the way, somebody else could see that 11th chapter form. Who else could see it? Sanjay. How did he get that? Vyasdev, isn't it? Not because, so Arjun got it because he was a devotee. Sanjay got it because his master, Dhritarashtra, is the son of Vyasadeva. So out of fatherly love for the son, he gave it to his servant, okay, you take it. So he kind of got lucky. He was actually first giving it to Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra said, I have been blind. If you give me the vision directly to see, I won't even know who is Duryodhan, who is Arjuna. I have never seen them. I was blind from birth. But I am very tuned to hear about it. And this, my dear servant Sanjay, very nicely tells me everything that's going on in my palace, in everything. Today on your plate, here is the roti, here is the sabji. This sabji is called, whatever, aloo, and this sabji is this. And I recognize it by voice. You give him the mystic power, he will be able to nicely explain to me. That's how he got it. Otherwise, Vyasadeva was directly going to give it to his own son, Dhritarashtra. So like this, they got the qualification. Okay? But in the modern context, so this was just the mercy. Now we talk about demigods. That was the other point Srila Prabhupada made. By mystic powers that is given to you, or you obtain it through tapasya, through strong, or by devotion, like Arjun. The second aspect is by worshipping the devatas. That's how you obtain it. Again, that's not in the scientific direction. The third option, Srila Prabhupada said, is by spaceships. So that is the scientific option. So in that particular direction, how we can try to harmonize and synthesize. So that is the main point of how we can harmonize and synthesize in the scientific direction. So first of all, one has to understand that there are very deep aspects on both sides. It starts with that understanding that there are deep aspects on both sides which it is not possible for one person to understand. Is there anybody here? Oh, actually, I was going to ask a question, but I already have a counter example. I was going to ask that anybody has won the Nobel Prize in 2 different subjects. So who was that? Huh? Pauling, yes, in physics and chemistry. So it's not like in peace and physics. They are different. Only one example in last 150 years. Okay? But it is very difficult to know everything about all areas. So first one needs to understand that there is depth in many areas, and it is not possible for the human mind to grasp all that understanding in depth, including on the side of the Puranas and the Shastras. So that is point number 1. And the second point is that one still needs to go deep enough, as much as possible, to scratch the surface, to uncover whatever is possible by deep understanding of both sides. Of both sides. And then whatever comes out is you should be happy with that. Still understanding that there is enough that is yet to be known. So with that humility, then one begins to approach. Then when you begin to approach a particular problem, you pick up something. One is very deeply going into Shastra, one is very deeply going into this scientific domain. And then one begins to try to see, hey, these are like, just doesn't make sense at all. Something defies gravity, for example. Something defies something else. Something defies some line in the Shastra. Some line in the Shastra defies some scientific equation. What do you do about it? Then, by some chance, or by your deep involvement, by your deep tapasya in those areas, you find a match. And when you find such a match, you almost win a Nobel Prize. Now, there is no Nobel Prize for reading Shastra, but at least in the scientific area, you win a Nobel. It could be a Nobel Prize winning discovery. One such example I want to give. My favorite example. In the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and in the 10th canto as well, there is this story. Now, this is about the scientific reality, now today we call it scientific reality, that time flies. We all know time flies. Anybody who is a parent knew their child was young and now they are all big and time flew. So, but time flies at different speeds on different planets. That was one of the most wonderful as in like amazing, fantastic, far out discoveries of science made only about 100 years ago by our friend Mr. Albert Einstein. Okay? In the Srimad Bhagavatam, which dates at least, I'm talking in a perfect objective way, which dates at least 200 years ago. Now you may laugh on me on that, saying that. It obviously dates 5,000 years ago. But definitely Srimad Bhagavatam existed before Einstein. Definitely, there is no denying. Right there, in the 9th canto, there is this story of King Raivata, whose daughter is, or his other name is Kukudmi, his daughter is Revati. He wanted to find a good match for his daughter. And he was living on the Earth planet. He visits Brahmaloka. He had that power to visit Brahmaloka. We're talking about travel to moon. He could travel to Brahmaloka. And Brahmaji was watching a concert. I did some mathematical calculations based on some Vedic time scales and blah, blah, blah. In Brahmaloka, he waited 22 minutes, which is a reasonable time to wait for a concert to get over. And then Brahmaji came and said, "What do you need, my friend?" He said, "I want a good match for my daughter." And he gave a small short list. Is this prince okay? Is that prince okay? I may be getting some details wrong. Don't catch me on the details. But the principle still stands perfectly. So, and then Brahmaji started laughing. He says, "Why are you laughing? Like, did I make some horrible mistake? I'm not naming Hiranyakashipu and Ravana here. These are all valid, good people." Then Brahmaji said that while you were waiting for me in the concert here in Brahmaloka, on the Earth planet, millions of ages have passed. Not only these kings whose names you have written have died, their histories have also died. Can you understand that? Histories have also died. Do we have, for example, today history beyond, in modern history, I'm not talking about Bhagavatam as the historical itihas, but before the Egyptians or Macedonians? No. History is also over. What to speak of their, So then he says, "I have a good match who, by the time you reach back on earth, he will be present," is Balramji. It's a very opportune discussion. Balram Purnima is coming up. And he says, then he knew that knowledge, but he had forgotten. He says, "Oh, another point. Bhagavatam is very scientific. I'm just trying to tell you." And he says, "But the age or the stature of the people in that age," and Balramji will come according to to mix in with the rest of the population, is very small. My daughter is so big. What does Brahmaji do? He makes the daughter Revati into a smaller height to match little bit smaller than Balramji, so that she's a good, nice match. All these points are mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. So there's another incident which we will not go into the details of much, is the Brahma Vimohan Leela. He makes one trip to the caves. He had hid those calves and cowherd boys in his Brahmaloka area. He makes one trip there to just come and see, are they still there? And in that much time, Brahmaji is very fast, okay? He goes very quickly and comes back. But in that split second itself, how much time passed on earth? 1 year passed. It's right there in Bhagavatam. And no wonder both these topics talk about Brahmaji and his planet. Because that planet, we can now with modern science, it says that on a massive planet, time flies much slower. 1 second nearer or on the surface of an extremely massive planet equals many years on a less massive planet. That is a proven scientific fact. Okay? Now, by the way, Einstein was super mad at this. This was his biggest discovery. He was so proud of it. First of all, he was denied the Nobel Prize for a long time. He thought he would get it in 1912, 13 or something. Other scientists who were supporting him, like Max Planck and all, were proposing his name, but the scientific community, the Nobel Committee, was rejecting it because they did not have proof. They did not have proof of this. So here what I'm trying to say is there is a burning, and I think for good reason, because religion or people can misuse it for many reasons also. So it's a good thing to have proof, is if all you can have is direct proof, what is known as pratyaksha praman. So it's a good thing to have pratyaksha praman. Otherwise, religion has done so many bad things. All the, you can name so many jihads and the crusades and all, and even in our, Vedic religion, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that's what he came to transform. Otherwise, the Brahmanas were saying, oh, if you give me money, I will cancel your sin. Can you can you buy your way out of sinful activities? No. But that's what was going on in the name of religion. So Pratyaksha Praman is a good thing. So the scientists, the Nobel Committee did not give till they found this proof, small tiny proof, that this, I won't go into the details, the occultation of Mercury behind the sun. And light bent because of the mass of the sun. They had to find the perfect time, the perfect place to take photographs on a perfect solar eclipse. And they could see Mercury before they could have seen it scientifically, because light bends like refraction. If I dip this pencil in a glass of water, it appears bent because of refraction. Light bends when it goes from one medium to another medium, water to air. But there is no medium, it's all vacuum. But still light bent, and the cause there was not change of medium, but because it was bent by the mass of the sun. Instantly overnight, first time they tried to do this experiment, there were clouds. They couldn't get the pictures. Finally, there was a solar eclipse. Next year, they got the pictures. Einstein was an overnight celebrity. But when they declared the Nobel Prize, they didn't give him for that discovery. It's like, jale pe namak chhidakna. What do you say in English? I don't know. Adding insult to injury, thank you. They gave him for a much simpler discovery he made called photoelectric effect. And they said, and other advances in science, in physics, washed it over. He did not even attend his own Nobel ceremony. He said, hell with you guys. I won't attend. I'm already so famous now. He was so mad at them. So, but there is something to do with proof. Another small example, we are running out of time, Mr. Peter Higgs, the discoverer of Higgs boson. The theory was present 50 years ago. That fellow, and Nobel has a good, this one, that you should only give it to a living person. That's why Mahatma Gandhi didn't get it. That's a whole different controversy, by the way. But they proposed his name. Everybody was set on giving him, after the Britishers left India, by that time he got assassinated, and they had to give it to a living person. And that's a big, that year at least they said, no suitable candidate was found, 1948. So it was considered to be reserved for Mahatma Gandhi, but they still didn't violate the rule. Like Ambarish Maharaj, He broke his fast as well as didn't break. So they gave it to him and didn't give. Anyway, Mr. Peter Higgs, the theory of the Higgs boson was proposed 50 years ago. He only got it the same year when it was proven by the LHC. So there is something to, so if there is scientific proof that you can get, many things can be very easily accepted. Lot of people, when this is told to them, this particular incident of Brahma Vimohan Leela or King Raivata, and its relevance to this whole aspect of relativity, convinces people a lot. But that's just one example. We still cannot explain how Krishna lifted the Govardhan hill, for example. So that is one example of showing how, simply by proof, that's a good thing. But these things happen once in a lifetime, once in 100 years. Then what the other option we have? The other option then we have is to consider possibilities. That, okay, this could be possible. I don't fully understand the whole mechanics of how it might work, but it may be possible. So please try to understand one more thing. The purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam is to not reveal scientific concepts. It's not a textbook of science by any stretch. It is a book of bhakti. It is to make us into bhaktas, into devotees, not into scientists. But this magnificent creation of Bhagavan is so magnificent, is so wonderful, that obviously there are things that occur in this universe, in this creation, that are so wondrous, that are so amazing and so far out. But you can't help but mention it because it is about God's creation. It does two things. One is that it ends up revealing these things as a side effect. The main thing is we get to see how wonderful Bhagavan is, and we are inspired by his power, by his opulence, and then we surrender to him. That is the purpose. But you cannot uncover scientific concepts from Srimad Bhagavatam. That's like trying to learn general relativity by reading the autobiography of Albert Einstein by Isaac Walterson. Very nice autobiography, not autobiography, did I say autobiography? Biography. Very nice biography has been written. There are equations in that biography, but can you learn the subject from the biography? No. The purpose of the biography is to inspire you to see, wow, Einstein was so nice, so whatever, nice or whatever you may think, to inspire new upcoming young scientists. That is the purpose, not to teach you physics. If you want to learn physics, go to a physics textbook, not the biography of Einstein. What other possibilities can we think about? So again, I have 4 or 5 possibilities that I listed here. I don't think I will have time to go over them, but very quickly I will just put it out there for you to just ponder over. And all have some relevance to some scientific area. Now, Srila Prabhupada also obviously mentioned one thing, that you cannot enter without permission. So first of all, you need permission from the residents of the moon planet. Or you can reach the surface of the moon. That's like somebody trying to visit Earth planet, and he landed in the middle of the ocean. 70% of the Earth's surface is ocean, right? Or even if he landed on land, maybe he landed on a desert or a mountain or whatever, and saw no people. On the surface of water, let's say he didn't go deep. I'm just making it up. There's no living in. He says, oh, Earth is empty, it's just barren. Fair conclusion. Well, you need to, what is the probability if some alien lands, he will land in the middle of New York City? Probability is less. Not so intelligent one. I'm saying partially intelligent, and I consider human species, human race at this present time in 2023, partially intelligent. So we have not been able to see the entire moon, even in the depth and so on, to see if there are, and even maybe again, that's another possibility I had, maybe there are beings which we cannot see with our eyes. Just 100 years ago, we didn't even know that germs and bacteria existed. In the First World War, when they were treating the patients, whatever knives they were using to pull out the bullets, from one patient to another, they would just use it. And then the patient started dying because somebody got infected because of a wound. The knife caught the infection, and that knife was used on the other one without heating it and putting it in the fire and all that. Forget about anesthesia and all, which came much later anyway. The soldiers were like howling in pain when the knife was stuck in. But at least they get to live because you get to extract the bullet out. But they were just dying out for no reason. Then after some time they discovered, oh, there is germs and bacteria. How they discovered? With the microscope. Well, that is yogic power in a sense. They obtained that yogic power. But germs and bacteria wouldn't explain COVID or any such pulmonary virus infection that is even smaller. Okay, now you can build even more powerful yogic powers like electron microscopes. Can you see? Things that you may not know today may become obvious later. Then later on, even cancers, it's not caused by bacteria, it's not caused by virus. It's just a genetic mutation, some disturbance in the DNA molecule which is inside the cell. How do you see that? Uji, can electron microscopes see the DNA cells today? DNA molecule today, or just the effects of it? Cannot? See, we have a PhD doctor here, cancer specialist, he confirms. You cannot see directly, you can see the effects of it. I gave a whole class one time on how they detected Higgs boson. They never saw Higgs boson first of all. They saw the effects of it, which is fair. But my point is even Pratyaksh Praman has its limits. But cancer is a big disease and there are valid treatments. So you can see that there could be things that you cannot see, but you may see the effects of it. I'll quickly go to another possibility. What is the life form, what we call ourselves? All life on earth is what based? Based on which element? Carbon. That's why we call ourselves the organic life form. Oh, Hare Krishna. Can we go for 2 minutes? Is it possible to have a non-carbon life form? What is in science, what is the next thing that is discussed? Silicon. Why silicon? Is there anything special about silicon? Yes, same column in the periodic table. 4 valence electrons. Shishrintai Satchidanand Dev Bhagwan ki jai. That is a possibility. Maybe at a micro level. There is an article in Scientific American, February 1998. You can go look at it. So I'm not talking some completely, bozo science. This was in the Scientific American, which is the #1 prestigious science popular magazine of United States. 1998, February. Only problem is that the silicon bonds hold good at high temperatures and high pressures. Guess what is there inside the sun? High temperatures and high pressure. Maybe it is, that's a possibility. It's just a possibility. And there are others also, Aarti has started, so we will end here, about higher dimensional beings. Now this is something completely unfathomable to the mind. But if you want to fathom, little bit scratch the surface, I highly recommend a book, almost 150 years old book, called Flatland. It was written in the 1800s by a very nice scientist called Edwin Abbott. Read it. It's a thin book. Good books are usually thin. Flatland. It explains what life would be in a 2-dimensional world. For a creature in a 2-dimensional world. Now we can easily understand 3 dimensions. And if you just have the capacity, in desire, interest, and capacity, to put yourself in the shoes of somebody who has ever in his whole entire life never experienced anything but 2 dimensions. How mind-boggling it is for that living entity to imagine life in the 3rd dimension. What kind of crazy things would happen in his experience because of the presence of the 3rd dimension. He thinks he is living in a 4-walled room, which is basically a square on a piece of paper, and suddenly another living entity comes into the room out of nowhere. In the 3rd dimension, how is it possible? And there are no doors in the room. You can come from the top. But in his experience, there is no 3rd dimension at all. Similarly, now when you say, that makes total sense, and it makes, that book will make total sense to a high school student. You do not need anything more than high school knowledge to understand that book. Now, if you just simply take one step ahead, I am living in the third dimension. Is there a possibility of a world in the fourth dimension? It will be as incomprehensible to us as it is to that entity who was locked in the two-dimensional world. It's completely unimaginable. But weird things could happen. Somebody could just appear here and just disappear. That's what Bhagavan does. He appears and he disappears inside a locked room. Like on Krishna Janmashtami, we will see in front of Devaki and Vasudev, Lord Narayan appeared out of nowhere, so to say. So all these are again possibilities, just possibilities, but have some relevance to the scientific world. So it's not, one should, again, the purpose of the discussion was to see how we can potentially harmonize and thereby not reject in both and have respect for both. So that was the intention of the discussion. A lot of very nice and devotee scientists have worked on these problems. One of my favorite is none other than Sadaputa Prabhu, who did a lot of work. His lectures are all available online. He has written many books. You can find them under the name Richard L. Thompson. And if you're interested in this area, you will have enough material to read, think, and absorb for the next 20 years. So you can go into all those things if that's what interests you, and it will deepen your faith in the Puranas, in the Shastras, as well as in science, both. And it will get your mind out, rid of controversies. So we will stop there. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share something on this topic. Shri Nitai Satchidanand Dev Bhagwan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Everyone can put the mats away, please.
Huh?
It says we can't even see time. We can only know time by its effect.
Yes.
Start.
No, it's good. It's good, dude. Thank you. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Pasatyadeshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Oh Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Oh Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Oh Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Oh Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Oh Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare. O Nitya Sachinandana Gaura Hari, O Nitya Sachinandana Gaura Hari, Gaura Hari, Gaura Hari, Gaura Hari, Gaura Hari. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Gurudev. Nitai Gaura Haribol, 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 Gaura Haribol. Nitai Gaura Haribol, 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 Haribol. Nitai Gaura Premanande. Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parvajikajaya Sattva Sattva Shishimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parvajikajaya Sattva Sattva Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj ki. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की, नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की, प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसागर गौरभक्त वृंद की, नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की, हरि नाम संकीर्तन की, ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की, यमुना माई की जय, वृंद देवी की जय, कलयुग पावन हरि नाम संकीर्तन की, सामवेद भक्त वृंद की, हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की, Entire Guru Premanande. All glories to the Assembled devotees. All glories to the Assembled devotees. All glories to the Assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada ki, Gurudev ki jai.
You want to get harmony? I asked him to do that. Suki? Nice. Let's try and get the new generation. Namaste Narashinhaya. Namaste Narashinhaya. Pralada dadahine Pralada dadahine Hiranyakashipurvakshahari Hiranyakashipurvakshahari Srila Sankana-kalaye Srila Sankana-kalaye Srila Ito Nashimha Parato Nashimha Ito Nashimha Parato Nashimha Yeto yamitato nashimha Yeto yamitato nashimha Yeto yamitato nashimha Nashimha Vidrahe Nashimha Vahe Nashimha Vidrahe Nashimha
Narasimhamadem Shanadam Prapade Narasimhamadem Shanadam Prapade Tava Karakamalavare Nakam Adbhuta Shinga Lalita Hiranyakashipu Tanovindam Kesavadita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadi Swahari Jaya Jagadi Swahari Jaya Jagadi Swahari Lalita Hiranyakashipu Tanorenda Kesavadita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadi Sahare Jaya Jagadi Tavakarakamalavare Nakam Adbhuta Shinga Lalita Hiranyakashipu Tanovindam Kesavadita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadi Swahari Jaya Jagadi Swahari Jaya Jagadi Swahari Kesavadita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadi Swahare Jaya Jagadi Swahare Jaya Jagadi Swahare Kesavadita Kesavadita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadi Swahare Jaya Jagadi Swahare Jaya Jagadi Swahare Jaya Narsimhadev, 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 Jaya Narsimhadev, Jaya Narsimhadev, 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 Jaya Narsimhadev, Jaya Jayo Bhakta Prahlad, Prahlad Maharaj, Bhakta Prahlad, Jayo Prahlad Maharaj, Jayo. Jayo Nitya Sachinandana, Nitya Sachinandana, Nitya Sachinandana, Gaura Hari. Jayo Nitya Sachinandana, Nitya Sachinandana. Jayo Jayo Prabhupada, 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 Jayo Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jayo Jayo Gurudev, 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 Jayo Srila Gurudev. Nrsimhadev Bhagavan ki jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Shinatai Satchinandan Dev ki jai. Shri Lakshmi Nrsimha Prahlad Nrsimha Dev Bhagwan ki jai. Shri Guru Parampara Sadh Goswami ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimati Vrinda Devi ki jai. Thank you all for joining us for our Sunday feast gathering. I know we all know it's hot out there, but it's nice and cool here in the Association of Shri Shinatai Satchinandan. And some powerful fans. Haribol. So, a bunch of announcements. Prasadam, I'm sure, is waiting. Today's Ekadashi, so it's going to be, Ekadashi suitable Prasadam. So, you can observe that as well. Before I forget, tomorrow is a very important day. It's the disappearance of Shri Rup Goswami and Shri Gauridas Pandit. Okay, so you can read about. Of course, Shri Rup Goswami is the emblem of Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy and his ability to expand the scriptural knowledge very systematically. So you can read about Shri Rupa Goswami through his wonderful writings. Okay, so upcoming announcements. Before I forget, yesterday we had a Maha cleaning and we tried a new volunteer registration form, and I think it worked really nicely in my opinion. I saw so many people that maybe came for the first time, and that was really wonderful. I mean, you can see how spick and span the fans look, the beams look, the chandeliers. That took devotees like the whole afternoon to do that, morning, afternoon. So, and then how the Matajis came together and cleaned up the kitchen and the prasadam hall so nicely. And the devotees who Mataji's home, and the devotees who cleaned the altar space, because we're going to celebrate the appearance of Lord Balaram and Lord Shri Chaitanya, and so the idea is to make the residence a suitable place for them to appear. So we'll have a part 2, that was part 1, because after Janmashtami a lot of things need to be put back into order. Unlike Lord Krishna, who can do it at a glance, we need to actually expend some physical energy. So I want to genuinely appreciate the devotees who yesterday lent their time, the energy, and did it so happily with a very loud Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. I found them to be examples for those of us that are have been following the process for so long. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu felt it was so important that he himself demonstrated how to do it. So if that's good enough for Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it should be good enough for us as well. So thank you very much. Wednesday we have Balaram Purnima, the appearance of Shri Balaram, Shri Baladev, who is non-different than Lord Nityananda. And so we'll start with celebration starting at 6 o'clock. There'll be offering to the deities, then Arthik, and then 6:30 will be Abhishek. 7 to 8 will be lecture, and there'll be prasadam to follow as well. So try to come, I would say by 6:10 if you can, because that's when Abhishek will, that's where Arti will start. Okay? So that's the schedule for tomorrow. Our guest speaker will be via Zoom. It's His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, who's joining us from Singapore, and will teach us a little bit about Balaram Tattva. Nityananda Tattva and Balaram Tattva, Guru Tattva are complex and not immediately understandable, so it requires somebody with some sensitivity to explain this profound pastime of Lord Balaram. Somebody's interested in saying something, I don't know who.